Welcome to Unveiling Hidden Past, where we uncover the forgotten legends, lost civilizations, and mysterious secrets of history. Today, we journey into one of the most enduring medieval myths, the legend of Prester John, the lost Christian king whose kingdom was said to be hidden somewhere beyond the known world. For centuries, European rulers, crusaders, and explorers believed in his existence, searching for his utopian empire filled with riches, wisdom, and divine protection. Legends claimed his realm was a paradise untouched by war, filled with emerald cities, rivers of gold, and mythical creatures. It was a land where Christianity thrived in secret, far from the conflicts of Europe and the Islamic world. But where was this kingdom? Was it hidden deep in Asia, nestled in India, or buried within the heart of Africa? From popes and emperors to merchants and adventurers, countless men set out to find Prester John's kingdom, believing that an alliance with this great Christian ruler could change the course of history. Yet, despite centuries of searching, no one ever found him. Was Prester John a real historical figure, a distorted memory of a forgotten kingdom, or simply a medieval fantasy born out of hope and desperation? Join us as we explore the truth behind this legendary lost empire. For centuries, European explorers and monarchs spoke of a mystical Christian kingdom hidden in the East, the kingdom of Prester John. This legendary land, ruled by a powerful and righteous Christian king, was said to be filled with unimaginable wealth, wisdom, and divine protection. But was Prester John real, or was he simply a medieval fantasy? And if he existed, where was his lost kingdom? Asia? Africa? Or was it all just an elaborate myth? The legend of Prester John first emerged in the 12th century, during a time of religious crusades and expanding empires. European Christians were desperate for allies against the rising power of Islam. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, rumors spread of a great Christian king ruling a vast kingdom beyond the Islamic world, a potential savior of Christendom. The earliest accounts describe Prester John as a descendant of the three wise men, ruling over a utopian land filled with untold riches, exotic creatures, and supernatural wonders. His kingdom was said to be a land of milk and honey, with emerald cities, crystal palaces, and rivers flowing with gold. But where exactly was this kingdom? Some claimed it was in India, others in Central Asia, and later, explorers turned their eyes toward Africa, particularly Ethiopia. In the year 1165, European rulers received an astonishing letter, supposedly from Prester John himself. The letter described his kingdom as a paradise on earth, where Christian virtue ruled supreme, and his subjects lived in eternal peace and prosperity. It spoke of giants, mystical creatures, and magical fountains that granted eternal life. A letter unlike any other began circulating across the courts of medieval Europe. It was addressed to some of the most powerful rulers of the time. The letter was sent to Byzantine Emperor Manuel I Komnenos, the Eastern Roman ruler who maintained fragile relations with both Catholic Europe and the Islamic world. Holy Roman Emperor Frederick Barbarossa, the most powerful leader in Central Europe, engaged in conflicts with both the papacy and rival states, also received a letter. The letter was also sent to Pope Alexander III, the head of the Catholic Church, desperate for Christian unity against Muslim forces. Another prominent person to receive the letter was King Louis VII of France. A key figure in the Crusades, looking for allies in Christendom's struggle against Islam. The letter was supposedly written by Prester John himself, the legendary Christian ruler of an unknown land. Its contents were so fantastical and extravagant that it fascinated and mystified Europe for centuries. It sparked wild curiosity among European rulers, who saw Prester John as a potential ally in the fight against Islam. But there was just one problem. No one could find him. No one could find Prester John. The letter described Prester John's kingdom as a utopian paradise, untouched by war, corruption, or suffering. It spoke of a land overflowing with riches, mythical creatures, and supernatural wonders. Among the extraordinary claims in the letter were rivers filled with emeralds, sapphires, and gold dust, a palace made of crystal and precious stones, a fountain that granted eternal youth, giant ants that mined gold, unicorns, griffins, and phoenixes roaming the land, a mirror so powerful it could reveal distant lands. Prester John claimed to rule over 72 kings, each governing their own province under his divine command. His people were described as living long, peaceful lives, untouched by sin or disease. The land itself was so pure that no venomous creature could survive there, not even snakes or scorpions. Beyond its mythical riches, the letter also had a strong religious message. Prester John portrayed himself as a devout Christian ruler, committed to spreading the faith. He spoke of a perfect society governed by divine justice, where no one was poor and all lived in harmony. One of the letter's most intriguing promises was his readiness to aid European Christians in their struggle against Islamic forces. With the Crusades raging at the time, this message stirred immense hope among Christian rulers. They envisioned Prester John as a mighty ally, an invincible king who could launch a holy war from the east, crushing their enemies and reclaiming the Holy Land. This was exactly what Europe wanted to hear. But there was just one problem. No one could find Prester John. The letter sent European leaders and explorers into a frenzy. If such a powerful Christian ruler existed, he needed to be found. Over the following centuries, countless expeditions were launched in search of Prester John's kingdom. At first, Europeans believed his kingdom was in India, then in Central Asia, and finally, as knowledge of the world expanded, explorers began searching for him in Africa, especially Ethiopia. By the 14th and 15th centuries, Portuguese explorers believed they had found traces of Prester John in Ethiopia, a powerful Christian empire that had existed since antiquity. The Ethiopian emperors, however, were confused by the claim and never identified with the legendary figure. For hundreds of years, the letter was accepted as truth. Popes, kings, and scholars referenced it in their writings, convinced that somewhere out there, a powerful Christian kingdom awaited discovery. As European knowledge of the world expanded, explorers shifted their search to Africa, specifically Ethiopia. Ethiopia had an ancient Christian tradition dating back to the 4th century, and its rulers traced their lineage to King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. Portuguese explorers traveling to Africa in the 15th century believed they had finally found Prester John's kingdom in Ethiopia. The Ethiopian emperor, known as the Negus, or King of Kings, was a powerful Christian ruler, and this fit perfectly with the legend. Yet, despite the similarities, the Ethiopian kings never claimed to be Prester John. To them, this was a European fantasy. But why did Europeans cling so tightly to the belief in Prester John? Modern historians agree that the letter was a complete fabrication, but who wrote it and why? There are several theories. Religious hope. The Crusades had been disastrous, and Prester John's mythical kingdom gave Christians hope that a great ally would rise to defeat their enemies. Some even believe the letter was created by the Church to inspire hope among Christians and rally support for the Crusades. If people believed that a great Christian king would come to their aid, they might be more willing to fight. Geographical ignorance. Much of the world was still unknown to medieval Europeans, leaving room for speculation. Some scholars suggest that distant reports about Ethiopia, India, or Mongol rulers were exaggerated and transformed into the legend of Prester John. Political desperation. European monarchs wanted an alliance with a powerful Christian ruler to shift the balance of power. There are others who think the letter could have been written by a European ruler, hoping to manipulate rival kingdoms into believing they had an ally in the East. Wishful thinking. The idea of a utopian Christian kingdom in a faraway land was simply too enticing to let go of. Regardless of its origin, the letter changed history. It fueled centuries of exploration, strengthened European ambitions to expand their influence, and inspired myths that persisted for generations. As centuries passed, explorers failed to find Prester John. The age of discovery in the 16th and 17th centuries shattered old myths. Africa, India, and Asia were mapped, and no grand Christian empire like the one described in medieval tales was found. Slowly, the legend faded, becoming just another medieval curiosity. Historians now believe that Prester John was never a real person, but rather a combination of wishful thinking, misunderstood geography, and cultural myths blended into one enduring legend. Even though we now know that Prester John was a myth, his story remains one of the most fascinating medieval legends. His tale reminds us of how myths can shape history, exploration, and even politics. But here's the big question. Was Prester John just a complete fabrication, or could he have been inspired by a real, forgotten ruler of history? Did the letter create the legend of Prester John, or was the legend already there, and the letter simply reinforced the myth? What do you think? Was there ever a historical figure that inspired this grand legend, or was it all just a medieval dream? Let us know in the comments.